On paper, it seemed like a mismatch. Very few people gave Jeff Horn any chance of winning, and look at one of the best force multipliers in terms of a weapon you could have in boxing. If we look at Manny Pacquiao, one of his greatest strengths is he can come from outside
Manny
of a...
Pacquiao is a different fight. He's more skillful and more crafty, more deceptive. He's cunning, he's intense in range.
So what's all this got to do with Jeff Horn was able to be competitive against Pacquiao? Well, because the match was in essence the pure... These are examples of both boxers delivering the same force multiplier in the match. This shows you both have mastered the art of sniping.
Naturally, I'm going to be very careful about the specifics of those strategies. People will have to wait to fight night to see some of those.
With an element of surprise on Jeff Horn's side, and he knowing the quality of Pacquiao's sniping capabilities, Jeff Horn employed a tactic of and subdues Pacquiao's strongest weapon.
Kind of emphasising what you've been saying, Barry, that he's just struggling this early stages just to get his range.
Model that jab, because very few people throw the jab that way.
Bruce Lee is my idol.
You can see the influence, the concepts, and the dynamics are very similar. So it didn't surprise me when I spotted Jeff Horn pull off a Floyd Mayweather-esque move.
I hear him, Steve. I just don't get it. I saw him wide open. I saw him with his hands down.
I get that, but it works for him. Manny Pacquiao had a hard...
Hi everyone, I'm Jay. There's been a lot of boxing fans who were not happy with the result of the fight between Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao, with Jeff Horn being awarded a controversial unanimous win. My question is, how was a relatively inexperienced professional boxer, Jeff Horn, who wasn't really proven, was able to be competitive against a legend, Manny Pacquiao? On paper, it seemed like a mismatch. Very few people gave Jeff Horn any chance of winning. So how did Jeff Horn manage to surprise everyone? To answer that question, we really have to focus on Manny Pacquiao first, and look at one of the best force multipliers in terms of a weapon you could have in boxing. If we look at Manny Pacquiao, one of his greatest strengths is he can come from outside of the pocket very fast from different angles and exits at different angles while landing punches that can hurt his opponents. This is one of Pacquiao's best weapons, and it's a definite force multiplier, for the reason it gives him the ability to attack and hurt his opponent from further out. It increases his striking range. This gives him a massive edge over the vast majority of conventional boxers without the same weapon in their arsenal. This force multiplier can be a real surprise to his opponents, including the likes of Algeria.
So, it's just a different kind of punch. Manny's power is very surprising. He cuts good angles, you think you're safe, and you're not. I've overheard Tim Bradley talk about that too. Like, he just cuts such good angles and is able to generate power from those positions. So it's definitely different.
I remember I asked Shane that same question, and Shane told me there was at one point where he's like, where the hell are all these punches coming from?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
You guy moves and you lose him and you feel the vision, but you think he's off balance, but he's not. He still is able to crack it.
Yeah.
What just hit me?
Manny Pacquiao is a different fight. He's more skillful and more crafty, more deceptive. He's cunning, he's intense in range. He's deceptive when he comes in, and he comes in incredibly fast from different angles, and he exits from different angles. Anyone who watched him fight Bradley or Vargas would see that. So he's the old bull. He's cunning, he's wise, and we've got to be a wise old bull, but in a young body.
This explains why Pacquiao can tackle and dismantle opponents with a reach advantage, because he has mastered the art of sniping in boxing and the technique to pull off such a maneuver, giving him the ability to close a gap with a fast effective strike from outside of the pocket, from the sniping range. To counter the effect of this force multiplier, Pacquiao's opponents would either have to maintain enough distance whereby they would have enough time to react to Pacquiao's incoming missiles, but then they'd be too far away to launch an attack of their own. Or they can maintain striking distance, but if they can't close the gap fast enough, like Manny can, they could get picked off coming in. Either way, Pacquiao can control the range simply by adjusting to his opponent's attempts to establish a favourable distance. By doing this, he can secure a favourable distance for himself to employ his best weapon, the force multiplier. This technique isn't easy to replicate. It shouldn't be confused with a Superman punch, by the way. The technique of the Superman punch requires you to pull your arm back first, and it consists of 2 steps. This is too slow for professional boxing in general. This particular force multiplier is a sharper and less telegraphed punch. It's an advanced technique. Only a few elite boxers are capable of delivering. If you can master it though, it will help you establish an advantage over conventional boxers and enable you to compete against opponents who are technically on a higher level. So what's all this got to do with Jeff Horn was able to be competitive against Pacquiao? Well, because the match was in essence the pupil, the student, Jeff Horn, versus the master, Manny Pacquiao. It's no secret Pacquiao was a massive influence on Jeff Horn.
I've watched Manny Pacquiao for a long time. He's one of the reasons why I got into the sport. We've learnt the angles that Pacquiao uses and all those types of skills. I pretty much mimic of Pacquiao, so I believe I have the skills and I'm bigger than Pacquiao to beat him. I pretty much mimic of Pacquiao, so I pretty much mimic of Pacquiao.
These are examples of both boxers delivering the same force multiplier in the match. This shows you both have mastered the art of sniping.
Участвует только немножко поиграться. Манни Пакьяо, как мне кажется, он делал уклон и шла повторная атака. Вот таких комбинаций от Манни сегодня может быть 3-4, и все это очень быстро. Попал.
Despite Jeff Horn's technique was overall less consistent and less refined, occasionally he can closely match the very best at this skill. Pay attention to the feet, they're both up in the air. Although you don't see the feet of Jeff Horn when he punches, you can see he clearly takes off. I'm showing you this picture because you can see Roy Jones's feet are clearly off the ground. He's literally airborne, and he's delivering a punch equivalent to his best punch in the process. In most cases, they don't usually jump this high. They often shift their whole body forward to close a gap, and for a split second, both feet, or sometimes one foot, is off the ground. Either way, they have to deliver a lightning fast punch without a solid base. But you'll never get taught this technique in a boxing gym because it's non-textbook, it's unorthodox, it's an advanced technique. You're always taught to throw punches with a solid base, with both feet planted to the floor. Allow me to demonstrate this. I'm a firm believer one should be able to demonstrate what they preach. Just so you know, this force multiplier is delivered using a non-textbook technique, which I will go into in a lot more detail in another video, so make sure you subscribe for future updates. The reality is, Jeff Horn has adopted Manny Pacquiao's punching technique and style to an extent.
And I look at Jeff as being like a younger, bigger version of Manny Pacquiao, very deceptive. He's already got the skill set.
And as a result, he was able to pull off the same force multipliers against Pacquiao himself in the fight.
Pacquiao пустив защиту. Решения принимались.
This is why he was so competitive against Pacquiao. No longer was Pacquiao able to control the range in a fight, because now he too was susceptible to being fired at in the sniping range. the range where he's normally most comfortable at. This levels the playing field. It meant Pacquiao wasn't going to have it all his own way in the sniping range. This unsettled Pacquiao, especially when he never anticipated this, since very few boxers have mastered the art of sniping at the highest level. With an element of surprise on Jeff Horn's side,
it's sometimes more the unknown that is the risk. Pacquiao's taking a risk if he takes the fight with me. Doesn't necessarily know what arsenal I have to bring to the table, so.
However, there are specific areas that we've got to do even better, and we will, okay? We will execute some particular strategies better. Naturally, I'm going to be very careful about the specifics of those strategies. People will have to wait to fight night to see some of those, but bear in mind, Jeff will be very deceptive, incredibly fast, high work rate, he'll be busy. It's going to be a great fight between two natural hunters.
With an element of surprise on Jeff Horn's side, and he knowing the quality of Pacquiao's sniping capabilities, Jeff Horn employed a tactic of moving side to side in the sniping range. By making himself a moving target in the sniping range, this caused Pacquiao to hesitate to fire off his own shots and subdues Pacquiao's strongest weapon. The truth is, it's a lot easier to shoot at a stationary target than a moving one.
Well, it would have been interesting to have heard a bit more of Freddie Roach there, but he's talking, I think, about him getting his distance right. Kind of emphasising what you've been saying, Barry, that he's just struggling this early stages just to get his range.
Well, I think he's also struggling with a bit of the length and also the speed of Horn right now, Pacquiao. Again, he's not getting hurt with anything, he's not getting in trouble. But just, yeah, the distance and time is just a little bit out for a minute.
Pacquiao had a hard time in the beginning of the fight. He had a hard time finding his timing. He did.
After a very slow start, and during the heat of the battle, Pacquiao had to find a way to overcome an opponent who, not only did he have the same weapons, but also is the bigger man with the longer reach. He eventually decided to deploy his superior countering skills and took on the role of the matador by exploiting Horn's aggression and inaccurate punching at times. Only then was he able to gain back an element of control in the fight. And as Horn tired and became less of a moving target, occasionally Pacquiao was able to land his own firing shots from the sniping range with precision. Not surprisingly, the fight took on the pattern partially of a sniping contest. Whether they threw a single punch or a combination, both maintained a buffer in terms of distance between each other before any attack was initiated by both parties. Whereas in a fight between two boxers without sniping skills, the fight generally takes on the pattern of a brawl, with lots of close quarter infighting involved. This occurs because neither one of them has the ability to close a gap at lightning speed. Subsequently, like a magnet, they naturally gravitate towards each other's pocket, where they're in striking range. It's common knowledge in the martial arts world, Pacquiao uses JKD concepts in his striking.
Isang martial arts instructor at miyembro ng Bruce Lee Foundation si Manny Pacquiao dahil naiintriga ito sa mga nakikita niyang galaw ni Bruce Lee na kanya nakikita raw kay Pacquiao.
The way you throw your jab, sometimes you throw with, sometimes the fist looks very much like Bruce Lee. I mean, is that conscious when you were a kid? You watched him model that jab? Because very few people throw a jab that way.
Bruce Lee is my idol.
Ano yung pinapanood ba yung Bruce Lee na Enter the Dragon?
It's like this.
Dito totoo nga, di ba?
And then when you
Pag tinignan mo
chew your
yung
lip,
pag tinignan mo yung ano, pag tinignan
All Bruce Lee's movies, I watch it.
when you were a kid, so that's where, and you put the strong side forward.
Yes, the quickness of his hand speed and footwork.
Because you're,
That speed.
yung snap, di ba? Pa! Ayan, yan. Pati yung fake nga eh, including the fake, yeah?
the feint. And then also
Yung
your,
fake ng gano'n,
your
diba?
footwork.
Si Terry ang tanging babaeng instructor na nakapag-aral sa ilalim ng first generation na estudyante ni Bruce Lee na si Ted Wong. Tuwang-tuwa siya na makumpyaw ang pinakamagandang pagpupugay sa alaala ng Master of the Jeet Kune Do.
Bruce Lee, he fought his whole life in this country to further the cause of Asian Americans, and to see Manny have such success now and also be influenced by him, I'm sure he's thrilled about it somewhere. If you have a jab like that, obviously they're going to respect you, right? But if you don't have much power behind your jab, then it's going to be a long day.
Sa isang ginugol ang isang dekada ng pag-aaral sa mga katuruan ni Bruce Lee, tuwang-tuwa si Terry na makitang natutunang gamitin ni Pacquiao bilang kanyang main weapon ang pundasyon ng Jeet Kune Do na right lead. Patunay din daw ito sa aking talino ng defending WBO welterweight champion.
There's a lot going on up here. There are people who have studied Bruce Lee many decades, and they can't break it down and figure it out. And Manny has done it, and he's done it, I would assume, without an instructor. It seems like he absorbed a lot of what he saw Bruce Lee doing. He put the strong side.
If you look closely, you can probably see the JKD influences in Pacquiao's punching technique. Although not exactly identical, you can see the influence, the concepts, and the dynamics are very similar. In today's boxing, those at the very top are there because they're not 100% textbook. They have adopted concepts from outside of boxing. Floyd Sr., who's Floyd Mayweather's trainer, also practices JKD concepts.
So they say that when you do boxing, you do it like karate, like Bruce Lee. Why?
Well, sometimes they say that, but where I deliver my punches. Well, a lot of people say when I train, they think I'm doing this stuff like Bruce Lee.
So it didn't surprise me when I spotted Jeff Horn pull off a Floyd Mayweather-esque move. We can see the version from Jeff Horn is less refined, but when you compare the vast differences in experience between the two, it's understandable. Nor was it a surprise when I spotted Jeff Horn pulling off a Prince Nassim manoeuvre. One can only do this if they understand the concepts used to execute these manoeuvres. These are the subtle signs that tell you Jeff Horn is not an average boxer. He's probably at this stage a rough diamond. Right now he's a hard fight for anyone. With more experience and providing he can tighten up his game, he'll be a force to be reckoned with.
I understand that, Stephen A. But you know what? I'm not a judge. I thought Manny won the fight. But I can tell you that Jeff Horn put up a heck of a fight, and he can arguably say that he'll be tough for any welterweight in the division.
Okay, Timothy, I'll give you the credit because towards the end of the fight, you were the one. Really, it sounded like the only one who said this will be closer than most people think it was.
Champion, Mr. Five-time champion Timothy Bradley. I got to get at you with one more thing you just said. He could beat anybody in the division. I don't think he would beat Errol Spence Jr. I don't think that he would beat Keith Thurman. I don't think he would beat Danny Garcia. I don't see that happening.
I think he can compete with all of them. Honestly, I honestly think that this young guy can compete with all of them. He took Manny Pacquiao's best shot.
Okay. All right. I mean, I hear you. I hear him, Steve. I just don't get it. I saw him wide open.
Listen,
I saw him with his hands down.
Steve,
I saw him fatigued after the 7th round. I think he'd get put to sleep.
I get that, but it works for him. Manny Pacquiao had a hard time in the beginning of the fight. He had a hard time finding his timing. He did.
If one looks at this from a new perspective, it would now make sense to see this exercise works on generating power from an awkward position where leverage is less than normal, and it's directly correlated to generating speed and power without a solid base. If Manny had done his homework and actually studied Jeff Horn, he would have seen some signs of Jeff Horn's ability in his training and sparring. But he overlooked Jeff Horn and underestimated him, and only discovered he was in a competitive match during the fight. Had he realised Jeff Horn was technically on a similar level, he would have been much more prepared and probably would have been more active in the first few rounds. Instead, he was too busy trying to solve a conundrum. The conclusion is, acquiring a more effective delivery system is fundamental if one wishes to be competitive at the highest level. Many have tried to compete with Manny Pacquiao, and many have failed, yet a relatively unknown Jeff Horn, with rudimentary boxing fundamentals, managed to be more effective than those who have tried before him, who were deemed more technically textbook sound. What Jeff Horn has got going for him is he has acquired Pacquiao's skill sets through adopting Manny Pacquiao's punching technique. Goes to show the effectiveness of an effective punching technique can surpass the effectiveness of 100% adhering to textbook boxing fundamentals.